Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is a complete bleed build. I did recently a bleed frost build and decided to put up the full variant on if you wanted to go full bleed and get all those procs, do a lot of damage. This is an awesome bleed build. It's going to be the stats at 150, the equipment, everything you need to know in this video, and this does a ton of damage. As you can see, this is max scaling, by the way. I keep this character at 150. We're on journey 10 now, and the damage is incredible. What we're using here to do all this damage is the dual Twinblades. I'm going to show you where to get the Twinblade as well. You can get one per playthrough. If you want a second one, either another playthrough or have a friend drop you one. There's a lot of forums and stuff where you can go and trade somebody for one as well. Now, we're using Seppuku on both. With the innate bleed and the additional bleed damage, it does a ton of damage. In general, this is a very good PvE build. It's absolutely awesome. And as you can see here, the damage and the bleed procs is insane. Even after the nerf to dual status effects in patch 1.07, it's still very good. It's awesome, honestly. Like, the nerf didn't do anything too bad to this build. It still works fantastically for PvE. And all around, it's a very well-rounded bleed build with the Twinblades hitting a total of 6 times per jump attack, which is absolutely crazy. That's a crazy amount of times that it hits, and it procs very quickly because of those 6 hits. Now, you get Seppuku in Mountaintops of the Giants from an invisible teardrop scarab. It's relatively decently late in the game, but lucky enough you can duplicate this. Unlike the Twinblade, where it's one per playthrough, you can go and duplicate this at the round table hold, which is absolutely awesome and makes our life easier. Here it is on the map next to Freezing Lake. Now there it is on the map on the left hand side, and as far as the Twinblade goes, I'm going to show you where to get them right now, or at least the first one that you can get since it's one per playthrough. It's in the Dragon Burnt Ruins. There's 2 staircases down. It's in the staircase that doesn't have the rats. If you're facing it, I believe it's on your left hand side towards the end of the Dragon Burnt Ruins, and you go down the stairs, open the door, and there it is. Your first Twinblade, which is an awesome weapon in Eldenring, and with status effects and the jump attacks, the damage is unreal. As mentioned before, there's nothing that quite hits like this. The fact that when you jump attack, you hit 6 times is incredible. 6 hits in one attack is insane. But to make things easier for you to understand as far as the jump attack goes, always hit, for me on Xbox, A, and then L1. Do not hit L1 twice. You'll get stuck in a regular animation afterwards. And you want to mainly do jump attacks because that's really where you're going to get your status procs from. That's where you're going to do the most damage. And though it is stamina costly, you're doing 6 attacks, or 6 hits rather, with each jump attack, which is giving the best, basically the most amount of damage that you can get from the Twinblades in terms of bleed. Now, showing it on different bosses here, I didn't want to put too many spoilers in this one, so I didn't do many late game bosses. Again, as mentioned before, this is like journey 10 now on this character. It stays at 150 all the time because it's for the purpose of YouTube, basically, so it always stays meta relevant. I know a lot of people care about 150 stats, and we're going to get into build and stats soon as well. Now, just like bosses, your regular old NPC players, or just annoying ones like this guy who can be kind of frustrating, it can absolutely shred. As you can tell there, he wasn't able to do anything at all, getting hit multiple times, getting multiple procs on him, and that was very easy. Don't mind me getting hit by Renala here, a couple books, by the way, doing Seppuku. But yeah, she takes a lot of damage from the bleed. Mog, a couple of bosses are very easy to just get constant procs on. Just keep in mind, though, that some other ones will have higher resistances and will make your life a little more difficult. In the case that they have higher resistances, though, as long as they're not completely immune to bleed, Twinblades are always the best way to go because you always get that proc, like that constant proc with the 6 hits. If you can time it right, and obviously she jumped back here, which was bad for me, you can just do a ton of damage. I mean, the damage is insane. Just the fact, the number of hits and the jump attacks, it's really the way to go. And we're using the Claw Talisman. I'm going to show the stats and equipment soon here, as well as the Raptor's Black Feathers to boost our jump attack damage, along with 60 Dexterity and 40 Arcane to maximize the damage from these Twinblades. As far as regular enemies go, you need not worry. This is absolutely incredibly damaging to regular enemies and can help you breeze through the majority of the game. As long as you get in those jump attacks, most enemies aren't going to be able to sustain that 6 hitting attack, and they'll just proc the bleed and die instantly, because the thing about the Twinblades is not just the bleed procking, but the jump attacks that we're boosting, along with the damage in general and its good dexterity scaling, just the fact that you can get a lot of damage out of these, it's really incredible. They're two awesome weapons, and when dual wielded, they're absolutely fantastic in most situations. Almost all situations, this is very, very good. Other than some bleed resistant bosses, this is relatively fantastic. Just to show real quick, I showed this on the Bleed Frost. I'll leave the Bleed Frost in the description. I'm using Golden Vow, Blessings Boon, Flame Grant Me Strength, and then I'm on Xbox, but you would want to go Y and LB, and then Y and RB to switch back to the other one, so you can proc both Twinblades with Seppuku, adding the additional bleed on top of the innate bleed to maximize your damage. Now, one more battle real quick here before we get into equipment, stats, full description, everything that you need at 150. By the way, in the future, I kept this video mostly spoiler free, but in the future, if you see 150 stats on any of my builds, assume that you're probably going to end up seeing some late game bosses most of the time, because generally speaking, 150 builds are for the late game. So we're doing a lot of damage here as far as field bosses and stuff go. It's just really good. This is a very good build. And as I mentioned before, that Bleed Frost build, I'm going to put that in the description below as well if you guys want to check that out too. And we're going to get into equipment and stats here in a second, so we can just kind of go over everything and you can get an idea of what you need to make this build work, do a lot of damage, and have an insane bleed build. So we have dual Twinblades. Eventually you're going to want both for plus 25. Any seal will do. The Raptor's Black Feathers for the jump attack bonus. Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. Dragoncrest Great Shield's good, or the plus 2 variant. Claw Talisman. Lord of Blood's Exultation. And then we have the Faith Tear, so we can do some buffs on top of our 15 Faith, as well as the consecutive attack tear. You can also use Millicent's Prosthesis or the Ritual Swords Talisman in the Dragoncrest slot. As far as stats go, the main two stats are to soft cap both Dexterity and Arcane. Arcane soft caps a little earlier at 40 and seems to hard cap around 60. Dex 60 and then 80. So we want to soft cap both. The main thing that you want here is 60 Dexterity and 40 Arcane. Ignore the 20 INT, that was from my previous build. I forgot to take that off, I didn't really need it. You can put 10 points back into Vigor, go 50 Vigor, and then the other main two stats, of course, being 60 Dexterity along with 40 Arcane. You're going to want the minimum of those two for this build to do a lot of damage. By the way, I'm not invading anybody. If you don't know this guy, this is the guy that you need to kill in order to get get to Mog early. So minor spoilers there, but as you can tell, he got obliterated by the build. It is very effective as far as NPC invaders and such go. If they're in your way, this is absolutely a great build to use on them. As far as the Godskin Apostle and Noble go, by the way, be sure to use sleeping pots on them and then use this build. Don't be like me and miss like 100 times when you're jump attacking, but yeah, as you can tell with sleeping pots, they go down and get obliterated very quickly with this build. It works fantastically on them. And some bigger targets here as well. With the Magma Worm, you can tell the amount of damage he's taking, how quickly you can proc stuff, and even though bosses become more resistant as the fight goes on, as you proc, it becomes more resistant with each additional proc. It doesn't really matter when we're doing this much damage, this much bleed damage, and with the jump attacks, hitting 6 times every time, especially the larger targets where they're going to always get hit with all of it. They tend to take the brunt of the attacks in general, and it does massive damage. If you're wondering why I put both of them to sleep, I can fight them normally, but I wanted to show how much damage it was doing. That was the main purpose of this, and I think it did show that. As you can tell, the damage is extreme. It does a ton of damage to them, even on max scaling. They take a ton of damage from it. With sleeping pots, you can most of the time shred them before they get up, especially on the earlier journeys, and even the later journeys, you should be able to. If you don't, I was missing a couple times and such, but you get the gist. It's a fantastic build, and it does a ton of damage. So as we end here, I wanted to say, if you're not subbed, definitely sub to this channel if you love overpowered PvE builds. There's a ton of awesome PvE builds on it. I'll leave the Bleed Frost build in the description as well. And for those of you that follow my channel, I know I've posted a lot the past couple of days, but with the patch and the update and everything, I kind of had to jump on a few things. I am going to take a couple days of a break, but if there's a build you guys want to see, if you're new to my channel, if you're already on it, just comment below on any of my posts or join the Discord and let me know, and I'll see if I can turn it into a great build. Thanks for watching, everybody.